Hey, what's up guys, Sharp Tony here, and recently I was asked by a subscriber, which is better, Keeper or Shade? And the question's a lot different. I'm going to answer it probably differently than you'd think I would answer it, but I think this is going to be helpful to people that might want to upgrade from Froob to Shadowlands as well, or Froob to Paid. So, let's dive right into it. Which is better, the Keeper or the Shade? Well, let's start off first with the Keeper. Also, shout out to my subscriber friend who asked that question. The Keeper, starting out at very low levels, is an incredible soloer, as well as a great support profession. One common myth that I will dispel is a Keeper, although very similar in appearance to an Enforcer, is not an alternative tank. They are not able to hold aggro like an Enforcer can. They do not get any taunt nanos at all, actually. The only taunt you're going to get is on your auras. And as a Keeper, you'll find you'll get quite a few different auras. You get some that add to your offense and defense. You have buffs that add to your evades. Keeper is a pretty decent evader too. You have stuff that adds to your damage. You have your vengeance buffs. You have your sanctifiers. You have heal, and you have nano auras as well, which come in a lot of different purposes, and they come in handy in a lot of different situations, whether you need to just be a support heal or need to support your doctor's nano. So like I said, the Keeper is a support. They also have snare reducers, and they're generally going to be a two-hand edged class. You'll see some melee energy. Yes, I have seen some. This does happen. And believe it or not, you get really cool support from Shadowlands weapons. You could find a lot of stuff is just looted. A Keeper, in relation to a lot of other professions, is going to be really cheap. Keeper OFAB is very nice. Very nice. Let's show you some 300 OFAB right there. Incredible stats. You get a lot of health and a lot of two-hand edge. As a Keeper, you're going to get pretty massive HP. Unbuffed completely right now. I have 22,547, and I am not in an HP setup right now. I'm actually in an evade setup. But I'm telling you, the Keeper is a great support class. Keep in mind, I keep saying support, because you're not going to be #1 in damage on the team. You could put out nice damage, especially in a crit setup, but generally you're not going to be the frickin' top of the DD charts. You do have some nice perks. You get Bio Cocoon, and you also get a nice bunch of heals and debuffs too. Keepers do get a little reflect out of their perks as well, which is nice, but you're going to find a Keeper is pretty defensive. They're going to have nice aura heals, they're going to have nice perk heals, and they're going to have some evade and defense nanos too, which come in handy a lot. So, the Keeper, defensive, incredible soloer. In terms of PvP, after 200 you should just stop, because 220 Keepers are not that good. I'm even in 300 combined commandos on here, and really, just not that good. I've seen some great 220 Keepers, but your best bet is a defensive setup at 220. In PVM, you will be soloing. If you are just starting out the Shadowlands and you need something just solo, you pick a Keeper and you will have no issue soloing pretty much anything. Now, going from arguably the best support class in the game, we're going to move over to the Shade, who is one of the biggest damage dealers in this game, getting access to probably the sexiest armor in the game in their tier armor. Taking a quick look at that. Shades are creatures of the shadows and of the darkness. They dwell on the life force of their other enemies to help fuel themselves. They get some nice, what are we going to call them? Leeches from their enemy. They could drain their own enemy's essence and eat it up. They have perks devoted to just devouring the vigor and devouring the essence of their enemy, using these rituals and then chaining them into the devourers. They could keep going and going until they completely healed themselves. For the most part, they get great heals out of these devourers. Their perk lines are great, and they lead for pretty much just piercing. But if you're looking for something that's going to be incredible damage, the Shade is the way to go. This is another evade profession, but the Shade tends to be a lot more defensive than, a lot more evasive instead of defensive. Shades also, like the martial artist, adventure, a few other professions, have access to the acrobat line of perks, which just gives you amazing evades. And piercing, a lot of these weapons look freaking awesome. If you don't like laddering your treatment, no freaking problem, because the Shades You want to see how much treatment we have here? Yeah. The shades don't need treatment. The shades use, instead of implants, they use what are known as spirits, which rely on your level and your sense and agility, which is just freaking awesome. They're the only profession in this game to not use implants. They have their own little class called spirits. And up until recently, they weren't allowed to use a lot of armors either, but now the shade is open to use whatever back item it would like. They were banned from many back items, leaving this to be one of the few you could use. And hey, if you don't have money to keep buying armor, you know what you do? You go farm yourself some freaking tattoos. They come in clan, omni, and they also have one that is neutral. The ectoplasms are the neutral ones. They have two other ones, some braces and entophagus or something like that. The names are rather odd, but you could just be an all tattooed shade. Let's take off my social and you can see what my tattoos look like. Equipment window. Enable social tab. See, we got some nice little tattoos here, and these could cover the entire body of the shade, making him look amazing, or we could just go like that. Another thing about the shades is, in terms of soloing, at low level, shades are not the best soloers. You're going to find you may have a good amount of damage, but once you get out of that, there's going to be a little lapse in the amount of damage you're actually able to put out, and you're not going to be able to heal yourself too efficiently at a low level. So soloing may be a little difficult, and finding the right weapons to do massive damage also might be difficult, because the Keeper could farm most of his weapons, and he could farm his two-hand edge weapons out of the Inner Sanctum and out of the Temple of the Three Winds. But more about the Shade here. Once you get to endgame, this is one of the most difficult professions to kill, and endgame Shade is amazing. They are really expensive in PvP, but they are also incredible. An Opifex Shade is generally not something you see too much these days, because all the PvP shades are Aatrox, with a few that go Nanomage. But the Shade can PvP like no other. One of the best PvP professions in the game. And you want to light up the damage charts? You have one of the biggest damagers here in the game, with amazing perk lines and great weapon damage as well. You have an incredible freaking damage dealer here. Not a tank though. Shades do not get much HP. Once you get to higher levels, you can kind of subsist that with your heals, like Shade's Caress, which is a proc that drains the enemy every time it hits you, which is amazing. And Sneaking Health Drain. There's just so many cool things about the Shade. I love both professions, but if you want my final verdict, if you want a support profession, you go Keeper. If you want to freaking be the damage monster, go Shade. But if you want something to just start out with and solo, I'd say go Keeper. It's a little bit easier, because Shade is a difficult profession to play and a difficult profession to IP up until about level 120. But trust me, whichever profession you pick will be great.